Hello, what is up, guys? Now, allow me to explain, and this isn't me playing the game live, by the way. The last video I uploaded, I talked quite a bit about indie games, like why I'm growing fond of them. And here is sort of, to me, visual proof as to why I've grown fond of them. Simply put, they are so beautifully simple. These games are just so simplistic in their design, but yet they can tell some of the most complex and some of the most captivating stories, and they can create some of the most immersive environment, yet they don't need £1 billion and $1 billion budgets. They don't need state-of-the-art mocapping. They don't need to hire high-level voice actors. They can just be so simple, and that's what I want to talk about with this game Limbo, because to me, this is, if anything, at least in my personal experience, the ultimate example of immersion, simplicity, and just being able to hit home to you. Now, this game, it has no tutorials. You just pick up the game, you start the game, and you go. You just have to run through this world, completing tasks, and you have to figure out everything for yourself. Now, the character doesn't speak. He's not given a name. You're not given a task. You're not given a minimap. You just have to explore this two-dimensional world, but yet it doesn't need music. It doesn't need voice acting to set the tone of the game. This game is an artistic masterpiece because all it just has to use is just a simple color palette and the environment itself to set the stage for what kind of game this will be. Now, obviously, looking at the color, the dynamics, and whatever, it looks quite dark, and I sort of instantly got that feeling when I started it up, and literally after the 2-minute mark, I was just kind of thinking, this is going to be a dark game. Not because there was any specific music, not because there was like any dialogue. There's no dialogue in this game so far, none that I've discovered. It's just solely a puzzle game. But that's the thing, this game has immersed me. It's not like a story where I'm going up against the entire world, I'm trying to save the world. It's not like an apocalypse story like The Last of Us, although I really rate that game. This is like a perfect game to the other extreme. Excuse that while I take a quick sip out of my citrus flavoured beer. I don't know why I have grown extremely fond of this. I'll probably turn into an alcoholic at this point, but anyway. This game can just hit home and just, well, in my case, immerse me. Now, the problem I'm having with AAA games, I've pretty much explained. Like, I've partly explained, but I haven't fully explained. Like, there's too many games that focus on the wrong things. Like, if a game has gore in it, or violence in Assassin's Creed, they actually try and make the violence look as detailed as possible, make it look as brutal as possible. However, this game, as you can see, I'm failing numerous times before I figure out what I have to do. This game hits off violence. It does violence, but it doesn't have to take it to an extreme, like, say, Mortal Kombat. It doesn't have to completely show guts being torn out, limbs being ripped off of the arm. It doesn't have to show heads exploding. It just shows your character dying in what could be argued brutal ways. Like, you can drown, you can get killed by a bear claw, you can get stabbed. There's like a giant spider in this game, and that can like stab you right through the spine, but it doesn't need to focus on violence. It gets the message across that this is a dark universe, or a dark setting, and it's a dangerous setting with many hazards to you, and you'll pay pay the price if you don't solve the puzzles and, you know, avoid the hazards. But like I keep saying, it doesn't have to go as violent as gory. And that's what I kind of want from these AAA games, to just pull it back a bit. Like, we've kind of accepted Mortal Kombat for its violence. Now, understand this whole sort of me wanting games to pull back violence isn't from like a whole neoconservative position where it's, oh, you know, violence will corrupt us, because for thousands of years humans have been exposed to violence either by war or as a form of sport, like the Romans and the Colosseum, where they'd watch people be killed on a daily basis in glorified manners. But what I'm simply saying is, maybe games shouldn't have to try and maybe AAA games like Assassin's Creed, GTA, Mortal Kombat shouldn't have to constantly try and one-up itself and one-up its competitors by completely showing violence. You know, we're not animals. Some of us may enjoy violence, blood, and death, sport, all that kind of thing. Some of us may not. I understand that for those that obviously like this, but even then, there's a mature way of handling violence. And I think this game actually does, in a way, show this whole level of maturity when showing violence. So that's my little part about violence over. But as for gameplay, let me focus more on gameplay here. It's just so simplistic. Like, there's not a million different, you know, button combinations you need to learn. It's not like you have to manage some kind of inventory or all that. It's not like you have to learn how to do anything complex. All you have to learn to do is observe the environment and solve puzzles, and the only two buttons you need so far that I found is the X and square button. The square button to interact with objects in the environment if you need to pull them, push them, and I'm assuming there's going to be levers beyond, and then the X button to jump. That's it. It doesn't try to go complex with, you know, completely detailed parkour systems. It doesn't try to be like, oh, you can interact with this object in so many ways. You can break the object, you can put the object back together. No, it's simplistic. But this is something I've actually been craving for a long time, just this simplicity. I've kind of grown tired of these AAA games like, I don't know, say, Assassin's Creed Unity, or The Crew. Like, despite me being a racing and driving fan, like, I kind of grown tired of, and even games like Gran Turismo, why does it always have to be complex? Let's get back to the roots. Let's get back to the roots of what makes a game good. Easy to learn mechanics, but difficult to master. That to me is good control design or good mechanic design. Mechanics that you can relatively easily learn, but then it's purely difficult to master. And I actually say fighting games and even sports games like FIFA and PES do this well. They have fairly simplistic and easy mechanics you can learn, and in some cases driving games do this. They have fairly simplistic and easy mechanics you can learn, but you have to work, you have to persist at the game to ultimately master these mechanics. And again, this is something indie games do really well. They give you a set of mechanics, simplistic, although it doesn't take to the case of you can master them, Well, it depends on game to game. In a game like Limbo, there's not really much to master. It's just you pick up and you play. You don't have to spend hours at it learning to master all the mechanics. But the point I'm trying to get at here is, and the point I haven't coherently expressed is, these games, to me, are a lot better than the AAA titles that a lot of other games. They're better than most of the AAA titles in my opinion, yet it doesn't have to try and outdo the competition with highly sophisticated details or whatnot. Hell, like even games like The Walking Dead, the Telltale episodic adventures, both season 1 and 2, those are brilliant games in my eyes because, again, it emphasizes this whole thing. It's simplistic mechanics, very, very, very simplistic mechanics, but it just allows, but the setting is correct, and it just allows sorry, that's a bit of a gruesome death, anyway. The setting they nail, like in this game, Limbo, they nail the atmosphere. They nail the basic necessities of what you need to get right in a game, and that's where the game shines, and that's what allows the game to exceed. Anyway, I'll end it for here because we're running out of the last piece of Limbo gameplay I recorded, so watch me drown to my death and I shall see you later. I am out of here. Goodbye.